students to a new video series looking at one of the most in a manner colorful topics as far as botany or study dealing with plants is concerned, that is inflorescence. And we begin with looking at what inflorescence denotes. Inflorescence is basically that term deals with the arrangement and distribution of flowers or a plant. So the key point is that we are looking at a lot of flowers. It's not a basically not a solitary flower in the sense that we are looking at a lot of flowers in different ways of arrangement. And before going into the details, there are three terms which we should be very clear about dealing with how and where the flowers are born. One key important term is pedicel, that is the stalk of the flower. Understand that pedicel basically indicates it's a stalk of a single flower, whereas peduncle is dealing with the axis of the inflorescence. That is, we are having a development where a lot of flowers are coming up, and receptacle is a kind of modification in the sense that it represents a flattened peduncle. So one should be sure about these three terms: pedicel, peduncle, and receptacle, because these terms will be coming up many times in the discussion which is going to follow. So in the beginning of this video, we'll be looking at the important kinds of inflorescence. Then later on we'll be looking at in detail each and every case. So naturally the first case of inflorescence is solitary. Now one point to note here is that solitary basically means a single flower, but it means that there are a lot of flowers, but in a single stalk or pedicel there's only a single flower. So it doesn't mean we are dealing totally with a single flower. So the other important inflorescence are racemose, cymose, mixed, and there's a special category that's called special types of inflorescence. So basically these 5 divisions are the most important divisions in inflorescence, and we begin with of course the solitary case. It as the wording indicates, we are dealing with a single flower which is separated from other flowers by vegetative regions. So it could be nodes, internodes. So there are it's a vegetative part of the plant is separating a particular flower from another flower. Solitary in the sense that it's a single flower, but there are many flowers arising in a particular location. So note that point. And another important key point is that the shoot tip, that's a tip of the growing shoot, transforms to form the region or transforms to form the part which develops into the flower. That's a important point. Now the second point, the shoot tips transform to become the flowering region. Now solitary has 2 divisions. The first division is what's called the solitary terminal. That's a terminal type of flower development, and the second is called an axillary. Once again, the wording indicates what we are dealing with here. Terminal basically means that we are having a single flower which develops at the tip of the main stem or the branches. So it's a single flower, of course, it's solitary, and it's developing at the tip of the main stem or the branches. Now in the case of axillary itself indicates which part of the plant we are having the flowers developing from. So axillary means it's a single flower which is developing at the axils of leaves. So you have the angle between the leaf and the stem, and that region is called axil. And here you have the flower developing, you have the pedicel coming up from that part. So single flower at the axis of leaves, that is what is meant by solitary axillary inflorescence. And interesting examples: terminal, you have poppy; axillary, petunia; shoe flower, of course, that's hibiscus. Now we are going into the very important type of inflorescence, and here it's not only important in the in the examination point of view. It's also important in the sense that there's a huge range of inflorescence which comes under racemose. And the key general property of the racemose inflorescence is that it's an indeterminate inflorescence. What does it mean by that? It basically means that that part of the plant which is developing into the flower group, that is something like continuously growing. So it's something, it's not like ending at that point, it's continuously growing. So it's an indeterminate inflorescence showing indefinite growth. And in racemose you have two kinds of flowers. Understand that two kinds in the sense that how the flowers are placed. That's the key point. First type is acropetal. The second type is centripetal. Acropetal basically means that you have the oldest flower, which means that the most developed flowers at the base, and you have the youngest flowers at the apex, which means at the top. So that's a kind of flower arrangement in acropetal. In centripetal, you have the oldest flowers at the periphery and the younger flowers towards the center. So a key point to note in these two cases is how the flowers are developing from the peduncle, and that's a key point. It's because of that kind of development the flowers are either becoming acropetal or centripetal. So acropetal, oldest flowers at the base, youngest at the apex. Centripetal, oldest at the periphery and younger flowers towards the center. So note those parts. So these are the two kinds of flowers we see in the case of racemose inflorescence. Now going on to the further details of racemose inflorescence, it's basically divided into two types, that is simple and compound. Simple is basically indefinite, and the peduncle, that is the axis of the inflorescence or the axis on which you have the bunches of flowers, that peduncle is unbranched. So let's look at each and every type of simple racemose inflorescence, starting with what is called a typical racemose. Typical racemose, the key points are that the peduncle is unbranched and elongated. The peduncle is unbranched and it's elongated. The flowers are stalked or pedicellate. And note the point that here the flowers are not developing on the inflorescence axis. It has its own stalk. It has its own pedicel. That's a key point. So the flowers are stalked or pedicellate, and the flower arrangement is acropetal. That is, you have the older flowers at the base and the younger flowers at the apex. And a very important example in this particular case is the radish plant. The flowers, the inflorescence of the radish plant. So that's the kind of importance about. So typical racemose means that, as the wording indicates, the key features of, or the general key features of the racemose inflorescence is seen in the typical racemose case. So once again, the peduncle is unbranched and elongated. The flowers are stalked or pedicellate, and the arrangement of flowers is acropetal. That is, you have the oldest flowers at the base and youngest at the apex. Going on to the second case, which is called Corymb, and here the key points are that the peduncle is unbranched. That is the inflorescence axis. That is the common stalk on which all the flowers are developing. That's the inflorescence axis. That's the peduncle is unbranched. The flowers are pedicellate, and once again we have the acropetal arrangement of flowers. So one may have a doubt that okay, these are the kind of features which we saw in the previous case. So what is the difference? Now difference is that even though we are having the acropetal arrangement, as the pedicels of the lower flowers are longer, we have the interesting case of all the flowers occupying the same level. So that's a key point. That's a key point which differentiates the Corymb inflorescence, which is a subdivision of the Racemose inflorescence, from the previous case. So that's an important difference. So the Corymb, the peduncle is unbranched, the flowers are pedicellate, and arrangement is acropetal. But because the pedicel of the lower flowers are longer, all the flowers occupy the same level. A classical important case is candy tuft. Going on to the third case, we have the Corymb Raceme. Now, Corymb Raceme, as the wording itself indicates, it's similar to a corymb, but as the pedicels of the lower flowers are shorter, unlike in the case of the corymb, the flowers doesn't reach the level of the upper flower. So all the flowers are not at the same level when we compare with the typical corymb case. So here once again repeating, Corymb Raceme means it's similar to corymb, of course, but as the pedicels of the lower flowers are shorter, the lower flowers doesn't reach the level of the upper flowers. And a classical example as far as the Corymb Raceme is concerned is the flowers, the inflorescence of the mustard plant. So note the very important point about the difference between corymb and Corymb Raceme. Corymb, we have the flowers occupying the same level. Corymb Raceme, similar to corymb, but the flowers are not occupying the same level because as far as the lower flowers are considered, their pedicels are shorter. Going on to the fourth important subdivision of this type of inflorescence, we have the Imbel. It's a pedicellate case. Once again, it's pedicellate, which means that the flowers have individual pedicels, and the flowers are raised from a single point in a centripetal fashion. So that's very important. The flowers are raised. So here note the point that the flower arrangement is not acropetal but is centripetal. Centripetal in the sense that you have the older flowers at the periphery and the younger flowers at the center. And the development of the peduncle is reduced. That's another very important point. And a characteristic point which is very important as far as the examination point of view is concerned is the fact that there is a development of a wall of bracts. That's all means a ring-like structure consisting of bracts called the involucre. So involucre is a characteristic feature of this particular type of inflorescence. And a very famous example, a classical example is Centilla asiatica. And here you can see that you have the bracts forming something like a wall, and from the angles, between the bracts, you have the pedicels coming up which bear the flowers. So this is a type of inflorescence seen in Imbel, and the Umbel inflorescence, and there is a family which is named after it, and is Umbelliferae. So note that point. So that's about this fourth subdivision, which is coming under the Simple Racemose Inflorescence, going on to the fifth case, which is extremely important as far as the NEET examination is concerned. This particular type of inflorescence have been asked a lot of times. It's what's called spike. The important features of spike are that the peduncle is elongated, the flowers are sessile. So not the point that the flowers are sessile, which means that the flowers don't have a pedicel. The flowers don't have their own individual stalk. So that's not that point. And the arrangement of the flowers is acropetal, in the sense that we have the older flowers at the base and the younger flowers you see at the apex or at the top regions. An interesting point here is that the whole inflorescence has a kind of condensed look. So not that point, in the sense that it's bunched together, rather than being separated out and something like more individually distinguishable. The whole thing has a bunched something like sticking on together, something like all are crowded together, that kind of look. And a very classical example is the bottle brush, which is callistemon, and also the chaff flower. So that's important features of spike, a very important inflorescence as far as the examination point of view is concerned. So key points are, we have an elongated peduncle on which we have flowers which are stalkless, which means that they don't have their own individual pedicels. So in this first video we covered till the fifth subdivision of the racemose inflorescence, a very important category as far as inflorescence is concerned. We'll be going on to look at the other cases, that is the spikelet, the catkin, the spadis, as well as the and the capitulum inflorescence in the second video. So we'll be looking at the other typical important subdivisions of racemose inflorescence in the second video, along with the important features and examples. So stay tuned for the second video, and don't forget to watch the second video to get a further nice idea about this very important type of inflorescence, that is simple racemose inflorescence. And thanks for watching this video. If you feel that the video is quite good and useful for your studies, kindly like and subscribe to this particular school my channel. Thanks.